Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 19 of the Scientology Chat podcast. Today we have a special episode, I guess would be a word for that.
That would be a word for it.
All right, well, I'm here with the actual host of the podcast.
Yep. Well, as you probably saw from what I'm going to title the name of this episode, this is probably the one most of you have been waiting for. This is going to be the Wall of Fire episode, the Trapped in the Closet episode, the Galactic Federation episode. We're going to talk about
Is it like Starship Troopers?
Oh yeah, I'll read it where that comes from.
Okay.
So can tell I'm a little nervous about it, but I'll just preface this by saying that through the course of this episode, we're going to be watching and talking about the South Park episode that many articles attribute with demolishing or destroying the Church of Scientology.
Destroy.
Yeah. And when we get to the part and they start talking about a certain name,
Oh boy.
I will say it, but I'm going to tell you now real quick, just as a preface. I drank some Sprite. That saying the name that everybody knows from this story is considered probably one of the most offensive things that you could do to most Scientologists. Not because of what it means, like, in the context of the religion, but since this episode came out, it's considered, if you mention that name, the church will and the members are pretty much just going to assume that you're there to fuck with them. So nobody walks into a church and asks about that story who doesn't have a preconceived notion or malicious intentions behind it. So even independent Scientologists, I have never seen any of them use the name. It's always the Wall of Fire. The church talks about the Wall of Fire a lot. Everybody knows what it means. It means the OT3 materials. David Miscavige at New Year's celebrations talks about how many people have crossed the Wall of Fire, and the members who aren't in even OT still know what that means. They know what it means and the context of it. So this already gets us to what we've talked about before, that what the OT3 materials are considered sensitive materials, the actual documents, but it's not a secret what it's about. I've told you, like, on the materials guide chart, it's called the Class 3 course, and it's right there in the bottom right corner of the materials guide, and it actually says what a small summary of the materials. So, and I told you about A History of Man, where I read that when I was talking smack about Leah Remini, because her interviews where she was like, talks about how she got her OT3 materials and was like, what is this bullshit? This was blindsiding. I never could have known about any of this. And lo and behold, in those free materials, like the book that's just called Guide to the Materials as well, it says in great big letters, 76 billion years, and it talks about what that book is a preface to the story we're going to be talking about. So we're going to actually be watching the whole episode, but I'm going to clip it to, avoid being prosecuted again. But I'm going to clip it to the main things that we talk about. So we're going to start the episode now and kind of go through it together. So, and by the way, just as an aside too, before we start this, if I have any connection or bridge to people in the Church of Scientology as of right now, once I upload this episode, I won't anymore. That's how big of a deal talking about this episode and that name and stuff is likely going to be. So you can cross a lot of lines, but when you cross this one, even though I'm debunking it as bullshit, it's still a big faux pas. So here we go. We're going to start the episode.
Scientology is more of an alternative to psychology than a religion.
Then how come that sign says Church of Scientology?
Oh, that's just his thing. What's the Denver Broncos record now? 6-2?
Okay, the first thing that they get, or that they don't really get wrong, but just ignore, is that, and if anybody who's listened to this has heard me say this many times, Dianetics and Scientology are not the same thing. Dianetics is the book about mental health. Scientology is the religion. So Dianetics is, as they would word it, an alternative to psychology. But Dianetics has nothing to do with Scientology. Scientology is entirely predicated on Dianetics. So we'll keep going from here.
Okay, Stan. Well, that's it. That's the end of the personality test.
So how'd I do?
Well, I hate to tell you this, Stan, but you are one messed up kid.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm afraid that you are completely miserable and totally depressed.
Okay.
Isn't that what doctors and
I have to stop that again because while it is true, Scientology famously does do personality tests. There are two important things to note about it. Is that one, yeah, the questions on the personality test, some of them are fucking stupid, as with all personality tests, in my opinion. But second, the Church of Scientology did not create and does not manage that personality test. All of and it does not give you the results itself. It's actually the Oxford personality test. The personality test comes from them. The results are entered into the computer, and they're determined by the computer and then interpreted by the either by the parameters set by the people who created it, or you can ask the person to interpret it for you, which is part of their training. But it does not tell you things like you're a fucked up kid or you're depressed. That's usually going to be like my esteemed colleague here was saying, going to a psychologist and talking about things, they're probably going to tell you you're fucked up, depressed, and need Prozac, not the Church of Scientology from the Oxford personality test, which you don't have to take. You can even just take it online. I think of it more as a novelty, but some people put a lot of stock into it. But that was the main thing I wanted to point out, is that the Church of Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard or any Scientologist did not create that personality test, even its stupid-ass questions.
Well, I was going to say, like, even that being said, like, of course, like, they haven't made the only personality test. Like, personality tests have been around for, I mean, before the 50s and 40s, whenever Hubbard was walking around.
Yeah, and so I honestly don't know why he chose that specific one, or if it was his choice. It was probably his choice because of Oxford University and St. Hill Manor being where he was living in the Church of Scientology headquarters in England. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my guess of why they use that particular personality test. But anyway, that is true. The church does give out little cards, and most of the time nowadays they will instruct you to go to Scientology.org and take the test because, like I said, your results from the test are immediately uploaded to the central computer, and the results and the interpretation are given to you then instead of by a staff member.
Well, but that's my money.
Yeah, well, just like the rest of us, you have to make choices with your money. You want a bike, or do you want to not be depressed?
Cheryl, our friend Stan wants to have auditing. Oh, good for you. You're going to be so happy.
I hope so.
I'm going to stop it for just a second because that is actually accurate. $240 for 6 hours of auditing is the actual price for most Scientology places.
God damn.
So it's fun. It's weird in a previous episode where I alluded to this, because of the era that this was created when they were writing it. I always wonder if they talked to somebody who was a former member or was in the church, because there are some things that they actually do get right that are very, very specific.
God damn, you gotta pay them $40 an hour?
It is. That is about what it costs for 6 hours of auditing.
I guess that's probably the same as like a therapist.
Yeah, I guess it depends. I swear, that always makes me think of The Sopranos, where he is talking to her, and he is like, "I pay you $150 an hour for you to tell me it's all my mother." Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of a whole new life for you, Stan. See you afterwards. Great. So do you have the $240? Perfect. We're on our way. Come on over here and I'll fill you in on how the Church of Scientology works.
Okay.
You see, Stan, Scientology was founded by a great man named L. Ron Hubbard. Mr. Hubbard discovered that negative emotions are actually caused by things called body thetans.
Really?
Yes, and being the genius that he was, Mr. Hubbard invented a way to get rid of those bad thetans. This is called an e-meter. It's the main tool of Scientology.
Hey, that
You
looks
just grab it
oh
with your
shit.
hands as I talk you through past experiences in your life. I'll be taking readings here, and we'll be able to determine your thetan levels.
Thetan levels.
It's funny that they get the price right for Dianetics auditing, but get the word thetan wrong.
Well, I was gonna say, I noticed that they pronounce it differently.
Also, I've said this before, but for $240 for Dianetic auditing, you do not get to use an e-meter. Metered auditing is called either metered auditing or Scientology auditing, and it's $3,000 per block of time, not $240.
Fucking.
Yeah, that's why most Scientologists don't pay for metered auditing. They pay for their own e-meter and then do solo auditing.
Come on in the auditing room and I'll show you how it works. All these people are just like you, Stan, auditing with e-meters to get rid of their negative emotions. All right, Stan, I want you to just relax and take hold of the e-meter handles.
So this is gonna make me happy?
Just take a few deep breaths and I'll just get a base reading of your thetan levels. Huh, that's straight.
Okay, if you are watching this or you watch the episode in conjunction with this...
She only touched one knob.
Yeah, when she turns on the meter, first of all, you all already know this, the e-meter does not measure body thetans. That's not what it does. Second, when she turns it on, what she says is measuring his body thetans is literally the clock on an actual e-meter. So, yeah. The e-meter only measures the clock, where the tone arm is, and then how much you have moved the tone arm throughout the session while turning it down. If you watched the episode 2 episodes ago, how to use an e-meter, I talked about all this in detail. So, again, that is not what an e-meter is for, and that's not how an e-meter is read. Also, when you turn on an e-meter when anybody is holding the cans, it will always immediately jump to the far right side. That doesn't mean you have a high body thetan rating. That means that you are a living human being and you're conducting an electrical current.
And don't squeeze those
Yeah.
things.
Don't squeeze the cans unless you have permission.
Yep, consent.
Yeah.
Fax these results to the head office in Los Angeles. The president has to see this right away. Go, now!
The boy is from a small mountain town in Colorado, sir.
Sir, how can it be that a first-timer scores that kind of thetan level? He registered OT9. I'm only OT7 and I've been in the church all my life.
That's not how the OT levels work either. Your measurements on the e-meter have absolutely no bearing on your ability to progress. You can't sit in an e-meter and have somebody register you as an OT9. It doesn't work that way.
I've waited 42 years for this day. Sir, don't you all see what this means? There was only one person who ever registered OT9 in the history of our church. L. Ron Hubbard said he had lived past lives, that when he died his thetan would show itself again. Our prophet has returned.
L. Ron Hubbard would not have been considered an OT9. Also, if he died and was reincarnated, he would not have reincarnated on Earth. That wouldn't have been his interpretation of the materials. Also, if he did reincarnate on Earth, he would not register any different than anybody else, as when his thetan became attached to a new vessel or body to control, the whole process would have started all over again.
What?
Scientologists the world over are simply rejoicing in his second coming. Look, we don't want our son to join your group, okay? We're not asking him to join us. We're asking him to lead us.
That's actually technically true. Every Church of Scientology Ideal Org has an office of L. Ron Hubbard ready, clean, and waiting for him to return. But that would, if he was reincarnated, it would not work this way. Like I said, his thetan would return to whatever body, and it would only be through auditing that he would be able to remember his past life. So he wouldn't be reborn and then immediately know that he was L. Ron Hubbard. But if he did come back and the process worked, the idea would be that he would find his way back to Scientology through the past life engrams, drawing him to be audited, and then through auditing, his past life would be revealed. So for all you know, you could be the reincarnation of L. Ron Hubbard. If you do enough past life auditing, you might be that person. That would be the theology behind that aspect of Scientology and why everybody has an office for him.
Hey, yeah, try it at home. You could be L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
Please understand, we just want what is best for your son. The reincarnation of L. Ron Hubbard must be taken care of. He had many enemies. Wasn't L. Ron Hubbard a science fiction writer? Yes, but he was also a prophet who knew the secret truth about the nature of life.
Nobody in Scientology whatsoever calls L. Ron Hubbard a prophet. That's not what he's considered. Nothing about Scientology or Dianetics is considered a divine revelation. It's not considered to be a prophet or a messiah or any of that. He is not a prophet.
This is just too much.
We want to reveal to Stan the great secret of life behind our church, the safely guarded Scientology doctrine. Please, your son deserves to be enlightened. Stan, do you want to hear the great secret doctrine of life behind Scientology?
Sure.
All right, go ahead and tell him. Would you excuse us, please? This is highly classified church information. Oh, rats. Usually to hear the secret doctrine, you have to be in the church for several years, Stan. Are you ready to hear the truth?
All right, it's about to start the story. So I hope that this is loud enough for you to be able to hear, because we're just watching it on a computer while we record. But like I said, if you want to follow along on the actual episode, we're getting to the juicy bits here.
There's a reason for people feeling sad and depressed. An alien reason. It all began 75 million years ago. Back then, there was a galactic federation of planets, which was ruled over by the evil Lord Xenu. Xenu thought his galaxy was overpopulated, and so he rounded up countless aliens from all different planets, and then had those aliens frozen. The frozen alien bodies were loaded onto Xenu's galactic cruisers, which looked like DC-8s, except with rocket engines. The cruisers then took the frozen alien bodies to our planet, Earth, and dumped them into the volcanoes of Hawaii. The aliens were no longer frozen, they were dead. The souls of those aliens, however, lived on, and all floated up towards the sky. But the evil Lord Xenu had prepared for this. Xenu didn't want their souls to return, and so he built giant soul catchers in the sky. The souls were taken to a huge soul brainwashing facility, which Xenu had also built on Earth. There the souls were forced to watch days of brainwashing material, which tricked them into believing a false reality. Xenu then released the alien souls, which roamed the earth aimlessly in a fog of confusion. At the dawn of man, the souls finally found bodies which they could grab onto. They attached themselves to all mankind, which still to this day causes all our fears, our confusions, and our problems. L. Ron Hubbard did an amazing thing telling the world this incredible truth. Now all we're asking you to do is pick up where he left off.
Wow, it has been a while since I've seen this.
Yeah, all right. I included that entire clip, so I hope you were able to hear it. It's time to finally break down the Wall of Fire. So, the most important thing that has to do with this is the primary thing that I've talked about on this show before, is that everything that it just said is not considered doctrine or scripture. It would be considered materials, but it would not be considered doctrine or scripture. So that story is technically, for the most part, is actually what it says in the OT3 materials. But the thing that everybody gets wrong is that those were not meant to be interpreted as some sort of divine revelation. As most of you know, when you do auditing, you recall incidents. And as you work your way through past lives, auditors will often or solo auditors will write down the incidents that they work through so that they can keep track of them and keep working through them until they can clear or get rid of the charge associated with what they're trying to work their way through. Now, do some Scientologists actually believe this to be true? Yes. Is it something that all Scientologists believe? No. That entire story is famously written by hand by L. Ron Hubbard. The material is actually a handwritten and very difficult to read cursive, and so when L. Ron Hubbard was being audited, he recalled an incident, and he said that while auditing others, he noticed other people were recalling the same incident. And that incident is that story. So it's not a revelation or divine inspiration or him being a prophet. That story is just an engram. That's something he remembered and that he says other people remembered, and he wrote down what he remembered, almost like a dream journal. That is the whole point of Scientology, is that if you follow the instructions, you can replicate the steps and get the same result. That is not that story. The OT3 materials is not meant to say this is true. It's meant to be more along the lines of, when you get to this stage, if you're auditing yourself, if you notice any of these similar plot points, I actually have it open here, of things he says to look for to try and find it. These are the kinds of things to look for. A loud snap, waves of light, chariot comes out, blows horns, blackness dumped on the Thetan. There are these different incidents, like the H-bomb being dropped on a volcano. You remember terrific winds being carried over peaks, being stuck to an electric ribbon. Mm-hmm. These are the different things. This is what I'm trying to tell you here, is that this is not meant for you to read and then just say, well, this is true, this must be exactly right, or anything like that. It's not like, a crazy story that you're supposed to accept as exact fact, like, I don't know, the story of Genesis and the earth being created in a day. That would be crazy. This is his recollection of an incident, and he writes down things so that while you are solo auditing for the OT3 levels, you can look for similar things, or if you notice similar things, this is what he thought was real. And I keep telling people this, just because L. Ron Hubbard said something doesn't mean it's true. I mean, there are a lot of... If everything he ever said was divine revelation, then there wouldn't be a doctrine in the Church of Scientology that says if two books contradict each other, the newest material is the one to assume is correct. So there are plenty of things that L. Ron Hubbard says that are not right. Then that's what I mean by him not being a prophet. He doesn't have infallibility. Everything he says should be taken objectively, and the whole point of something is only true if it's true for you is not to just accept what people say as fact, to get the instructions, read the materials, and try to replicate what it says you're supposed to replicate, and either you get a result that's different and you can take that to be true, you get the same result and you agree and it's true, or you get no result and you don't have to believe it at all. It's up to you to interpret the materials as you do them. So, yeah. That pretty much, that pretty much sums up the whole thing here. That is accurate, though. It does say that, 95 million years ago, and even in his handwriting, it says very space opera, that the head of the Galactic Federation solved overpopulation by mass implanting. He caused people to be brought to Earth and put an H-bomb on principal volcanoes in the Pacific Ocean area, where they were taken to different areas to be packaged. His name was Xenu or Zimu, and it's spelled different ways in different parts of the materials. Xenu, Xemu. No one knows for sure which one was supposed to be right. And then various misleading pieces of data were placed in circuits and placed in the implants. So
I was gonna say, so this guy is like Thanos, but had a slightly different thing going on.
So that this little portion here is why the OT3 materials are considered classified. If you're not prepared and you haven't done enough auditing, L. Ron Hubbard believed this. One can freewheel through the implant and die unless it is approached as perfectly outlined. The freewheel lasts too long, you deny yourself sleep, and one will die. So be careful to do only incidents 1 and 2 as given, and not plow around and fail to complete one phaeton at a time. So that also kind of leads to the final sad thing I wanted to say about here, where it says body phaeton levels. They talk about the phaeton levels as if that you want it to be high. And it's actually the exact opposite by means of the way that auditing works in Scientology auditing when you get to these stages, is that your phaeton inside your body is you, and there are these other phaetons that have not been able to find a body that have coalesced around your phaeton, almost like a parasite. And so, as you're trying to do Scientology auditing and clear your own phaeton of past life incidents, you're finding things that are wrong because you're getting incidents from your body phaetons. And so, OT3 auditing and these kinds of auditing sessions, you are supposed to use a meter to audit the engrams from the body phaetons that have attached to you. So you work through and clear and discharge the phaetons until you are, you've cleared them all. The idea is to have none of them, not to have many of them. So that's how it actually works. That's what body phaetons are, how they supposedly attach themselves to your phaeton as some sort of parasite, and what you're supposed to do to get rid of them. If you use Google, which I don't recommend, but I'm sure people are going to do it anyway, when you do it, you'll actually see there are hand-drawn illustrations by L. Ron Hubbard where you'll see kind of what I described, a drawing of your phaeton, which is like a big circle with all these little circles being squished onto it as it slowly, as they attach themselves to you and negatively impact your phaeton's ability to operate. Clearing yourself of body phaetons has nothing to do with happiness, really. those are engrams as part of Dianetics. The goal of Dianetics is getting to the ideal state of being, which high levels across all of the chart of human evaluation, the tone scale. That's the goal of Dianetics, is to get you through your engrams and make you happier and more able to deal with things and working through incidents that you key into that negatively affect you in your life. That's not the point of OT auditing. This is once you get to OT, these are where you start to get abilities, and I use that in quotations that you can't see. These are where things get even more into, this is up to your own interpretation. Even for me, the OT3 materials sort of break one of the rules of auditing in the first place, where by reading these materials and being told to look for things about them, to me, that breaks the rule of not, even what he's saying about people being implanted. The materials of OT3, in my opinion, are themselves an implant and break the cardinal rules of auditing themselves. You're reading materials and being told what to look for and what the story should be, and it's implanting something into you for you to fabricate, possibly, it's my interpretation, to fabricate this recall exercise yourself. So I don't know. That's my interpretation of it. I don't know if I personally think that this story is still more realistic than the creation myths of other religions, because, alien life is far more statistically likely to exist in the universe than Virgin Mary.
Well, and there's a lot of weird shit in Mormonism.
Yeah, that's true. But if you do, there are some people who listen to this who are beyond the OT3 levels and things like that. So what this isn't, I'm not going to if something's true for you with what you've been able to experience or replicate in the materials, then that's fine. This is my interpretation of the materials, and like I said, I think the OT3 materials break the rule of implanting something into somebody for auditing. This story would be no different than me Dianetic auditing somebody and giving them a book and being like, look for these signs, and if you find these signs, you'll find stories of you being sexually assaulted as a child. And so they're going to look for all this shit and make up stories in their head instead of organically remembering actual things. That's like all those kids who claim their teachers and parents were molesting them because they were, what was that word? I don't know. They were manipulated. There's a specific term for it by these overzealous counselors. I think that's like implanted or planting a false memory or something, but they had become convinced that their parents had molested them when there was factual proof that they did not, and it was a big scandal. But anyway, we'll continue. The episode's almost over.
I don't know any of this stuff.
Neither did Elron when he started. He said he just closed his eyes and wrote down whatever came to mind. You can do the same.
That's literally what I was just talking about. Him closing his eyes and writing down what he saw. The show is presenting that as if he was getting divine revelation. That is how auditing works. That's true. He did close his eyes and write down what he saw because that's how auditing works. That's how you work an incident when you're solo auditing or running an engram. That's not divine inspiration or a divine revelation.
Yeah. Hey, Stan, we're gonna go to the movies. I can't. I'm writing a new sacred doctrine for my church. Look, Stan, we're really getting concerned about this cult you're getting into. Cult? Scientology isn't a cult, Kyle. I read all this stuff and it's based on fact. Dude, L. Ron Hubbard was a science fiction writer. He lived on a boat with only young boys and got busted by the feds numerous times. I did not. Those are rumors put out by people who are afraid because they don't know the secret truth. What secret truth? I can't tell you unless you paid for a few years of audit counseling. All I know is that I was depressed before, and now I found meaning. I didn't know you were depressed. Neither did I. But now, if you guys can't accept this great thing I belong to, then I suppose we're no longer friends. Stan, I just want you to know that I still hate Kyle more than you.
We are gonna sue you!
What?
Yeah, you think you can say our religion is a lie? We'll sue you, buddy!
You told me it was a lie.
Oh, now you're putting words in my mouth! You are so sued! You can't make fun of Scientology, kid! We are gonna sue your ass and your balls! Yeah, that's right! How dare you mock our faith, you little punk! You'll be hearing from our lawyers tomorrow! We've just had an incredible development here, Mitch! Tom Cruise, John Travolta, and R. Kelly have all come out of the closet! You made me look stupid! I'm gonna sue you too!
Well, fine. Go ahead and sue me.
I will! I'll sue you in England! You are so sued, kid!
Well, go on then. Sue me.
We're going to!
Okay, good. Do it. I'm not scared of you. Sue me.
Okay, that's the end of the episode. The final joke, if you didn't watch it, is that all of the credits, everybody's name was changed to John and Jane Smith, so that the Church of Scientology wouldn't know their actual name to sue them. Yeah. Fun fact, the Church of Scientology actually did not file any lawsuits over this episode. They are famously litigious, but they didn't sue this time. The last bit of the episode pretty much talks about things we've talked about on this episode before, just general things about the church charging for different services. There are plenty of other episodes you can watch on the show that talk in detail about that, including the last episode, actually. The last episode called The Scientology Paywall. So if you haven't seen that one, that talks way more in detail about what they're alluding to in that at the end of the episode. But I feel like this is pretty much a good, solid breakdown of the beginning of this. At a certain point, there will be... This episode is mainly about the episode in South Park, but there's going to be another episode where I will actually go over more specific information about what's in the OT3 materials. They're not actually that long, but that's an episode where I want to make sure I actually have everything together and kind of what parts I want to point out and which parts are worth mentioning to write it down and have a game plan on that. But that's pretty much everything for this episode. If you haven't gone to our new website, it's scientologychat.podbean.com. If you have any questions, you can send them to scientologychat@gmail.com. And then once we start doing videos, which will happen eventually, you can also go to youtube.com/scientologychat, where you can listen to the episodes on the podcast, and you'll also be able to subscribe to be able to see once the first actual videos come out.
And we should have episodes almost every Thursday.
Yeah. Happy 4th of July, by the way, if you're in America. So, belated 4th of July.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the 11th now.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Read books and shit. Don't trust the government.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen. Also, just before we end, an especially big thank you, because just last Saturday, we crossed our most ever streams in one day. Like, we completely shattered that record.
What was the record before?
Before, the most we had ever had in one day, I think, was 35 streams in a 24-hour period. And then last Saturday, we had 78 in one day.
Oh.
So...
Cool. More than doubled.
Yeah, that's... now, if we could consistently get that, hopefully one day.
Well, I mean, we would have to be consistent.
Yeah, that's... we're getting there.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yep. But thanks again. We'll be back next week.